Hello, and welcome back to Empyrion, Galactic Survival Reforged Eden 1.10. I'm Winslow. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to do a bit of a vehicle showcase, a ship showcase for ships that I've built that I will be using coming up in the series. We are in creative mode on Oskatoon, and the first thing that I'm going to show is the ship that I just built in game and I have not plopped down yet. This is the Europa carrier, which was showcased on Jay Randall's workshop highlight. This is the Mark II. It's the updated version, and I had to update and re-upload the ship because I somehow lost the original file. Don't know how I did it, but I lost the original. So the original is there, and this is the updated version. Coming in here, let's start out. We've got a pretty standard hangar cargo bay. I've got expansion slots for an additional constructor or deconstructor. I've got a variety of container controllers that are all labeled. You actually go to the ship devices here. Got 4 320k cargo containers, 2 advanced constructors currently, a deconstructor, 2 small constructors, which I like to keep those just for pentaxid fuel crafting. It is a Core 9 ship, which means that I've got 9 core system or CPU extenders. It does not have any aux cores or quantums. But it is fully ready to continue upgrading, and it also includes 2 320k harvest bays. Let me actually get back in here, and we're going to look at the CPU here. There is about 200,000 left for further upgrades, which could be... I've tried to... Let me go ahead and just fly. I've tried to label it so that it could be easily upgraded with anything that you might want, like mining lasers in front here. I've labeled for turrets. These can be mining turrets or they can be defense turrets. I've got some sentry guns everywhere. I've got plenty of parking on top. And then I've got some lasers and a plasma cannon on the top here, above the bridge. But let's continue to go through the inside. The reason why I did a Mark II is because I reworked some of the interior to make it so that it was more user-friendly to walk around. This place has this is a secure section, so just for fun, I've got a sentry that comes out. I've got 2 advanced generators out there, and in here is where I would put, like, I should put the computer core in here. This was just kind of a fun, in the Mark I, a fun non-functional space in the center of the ship that I had some like fake xenoblocks that were in there that were on lockdown. They were under quarantine. But I could put the computer core in there, which I really should do when I build this out, because otherwise the computers and stuff are in back. I've got on this side my shield room and a warp core in the center. And my computers are back here, which I need to finish some texturing. This goes back around that same central hallway. And then we've got a couple of elevators that go up. I've got an access port for the warp core. There is a drop bay right there, so you can just drop down under the ground. And then I've got kind of like a crew common area. I have a fully functional sick bay with all medical stations, including a cloning chamber. And then I've got the shower and toilet. I have, it's a non-functional, but it is just a space filler, a specimen lab or chemical lab with just some crew in here. This can be torn out and turned into anything, really. And then I've got some crew areas. I've got like a mess hall here. And then I've got some bunks and a little private bathroom area for my crew. And here we've got two different splits. I've got down back to the cargo bay. And then if we go up, this takes us to kind of like a customs, as it were. If you were to land on the deck here and you want to come into the ship, you can come in through here. And you have to go through a little customs checkpoint. I need to change the transparency on this. I need to turn the back the other way. That way it's shaded from the outside. Okay. And then we've got some crew, military crew, alien and human. These guys give CPU. That's why I have so many crew on the ship. They take over ship processes and boost your CPU. And then up to the top here is the bridge. I've got the command chair. I've got some passenger seats, and then I've got easy access out onto the deck. And you look at it, it's a pretty big ship, but it's I'm quite proud of it. The Mark I was fairly popular on the workshop. It's a good feedback for it. Most of the feedback was related to needing better access in interior, like elevators and movement. So that's what I did. I reworked the interior so that it was better to move around. And yeah, this is also could be an additional expansion space. This could be torn out. Or theoretically, there's enough interior space to add in a lot of components. And then we've got a little back door for a back deck with some deco blocks. So I'm pretty happy with this. The Europa Mark II carrier. I primarily designed it for like a mining carrier so that I could go out and do some of the rich harvesting and carry a lot of my other ships with me. There's enough space on the deck here to park a combat CV. An SV can go on back. And you can put HVs in the hangar bay. Okay. Pretty proud of it. It's done me well in single player and multiplayer. So that is the first ship that I will be popping out when we get back into the series. This is the next one. This is my first Core 9 combat CV. This has been updated for 1.10. So I need to re-upload this to the workshop. Blueprint, I will make the blueprint available for it. Let me look at the stats here. It is just under 2.1 million CPU. It has all weapons that you need for your starting for your Core 9 ship hunting. And And this was what I originally did is I cut off the hangar bay for the carrier and then built just a little bridge. Cut the bridge off the top, built a bridge forward, so the interior is very similar. So when in and out in space, I enter and exit through this door here. This gets me to the combat bridge. I use a combat bridge here because this gives me a really good field of view and really good precise targeting for my artillery cannons when we're fighting stuff. But being that it is so far forward, it is vulnerable to attack when your shields run out. So you have to be a little bit more vigilant with your shield usage. Should that happen, there is a secondary bridge up here now in the crew quarters, which you can see. This is the same similar build out from the carrier, but I've swapped a couple things around. I've got some crew in here, and I've turned the side crew quarters into storage. I've got an ammunition controller up front, an ammunition controller in back, and storage and basic construction here up front. This is intended for combat. It's not for harvesting or farming stuff. So it's got, let me look at it's got one regular container controller, 2 ammo controllers, an advanced constructor, and a small constructor. As far as things that it can build out with. But the interior, the rest of the interior is fairly similar. We've got loadout in back, which I've changed a little bit differently to have the shield parts. I need to reconfigure this because I don't want the large shield parts exposed. But I've got the small shield parts under this glass here. And I need to dig out and sink these down a little bit more and then put them underneath glass. The other big change is there's now a back entrance. There's no real interior docking space for this ship. And then these side, the old shield and computer rooms are mostly for fuel and maintenance, like thruster maintenance. And then I've got a teleporter here. The warp drive is right there. Gravity generator is over here. I've got my shield in there, in that hallway. And then this, I turned the all-purpose room, that previously unused room, into my computer core. Now, I originally had shield parts in with the computer core, but the problem is shield parts, when they blow up, they do explosion radius. So shield parts next to computer parts, bad idea, because if your shields get busted, it can destroy your computer core. I've still got my generators on the side. And then I've got some, again, maintenance access, expansion for some additional shield parts if I wanted. On either side here. There's enough room to put more shields in. And then I've got back to the combat deck there, or the combat bridge. And I put the core in front here because the thought is, if the front of the ship gets blown up, because I'm not paying attention to my shields or I'm just unlucky, I'm hoping that it also pops the core. Because if it blows up the core, an enemy ship will stop targeting you. Because it won't see your now unusable ship as a threat. And it stops targeting it. So you can come back and retrieve it later. And as long as you're not on a server setting, single player, your ship will be there derelict forever. But on a multiplayer server, uncored vessels tend to disappear after a certain amount of time. So you want to make sure to go back and retrieve your ship. Now, if your shields hold out, I shouldn't have to worry about having my shield parts exposed here. But I need to rethink this before moving forward with uploading this to the workshop. But it's got artillery cannons in the front. It has some lasers, positrons. The ship has positrons. Lots of sentries. It has expansion slots underneath for more. This have retractable turrets, some miniguns, more lasers, and then it's got a bunch of sentries. Sentries are really good for close combat and taking care of predators. And then just some deco blocks to make it look fun. I have taken out a lot of ships with the Manta, all the way up to a Cameron class. I have not tested it against a Tovera class ship because I had already upgraded and made a new ship before I went after Toveras. Which, if you allow me a moment here, I will move these and then I'll bring out the last two ships that I will be using in the future. All right, so here I have, this is the Manta Mark III. This is the top tier for my Manta. This is fully upgraded compared to the original. I still have the same basic hull design, but I have built out further. Let me first show you the CPU usage here. It's just slightly over 2.1 million, but it's not enough above to affect the CPU efficiency or the engines. Added in a little bit more decorative blocks, and did a much better job with the shield part placement. I've got these shields internal under glass. Total shield is 22,950, which is more than enough to take out drones and most Xerax ships. I can take out a Tovera with this. You just have to be mindful of your shield levels. It's a bit on the low side for Tovera, but it has more guns than the previous version. So it's got 6 lasers. It's got 2 autocannons or artillery cannons still. I have positrons on top. I've got some, are these the colonist ships? Yes, colonist missiles and bolter turrets underneath for my kinetics. And I use these because they're cheap CPU. Full complement of sentry guns underneath. And I have it marked for some expansion slots for additional thrusters. With these shutter doors. So you just take out the shutter door and the thrusters will fit in there. It has more than enough combat thrust to get you in and around. I'm going through the back here. Same layout as the Mark I starting out. Again, this is just maintenance access. Similar gravity, but these shield parts are internal around the shield generator and around the warp drive. There's plenty of room to expand. You can get all of the medium shield parts in there. I've got my computer core, and I took out the central multipurpose room and I put it in as a generator room. Now the reason why I have it like this and I have it this size is because this is intended to have a fusion reactor. We don't have the CPU in this currently to hold a fusion reactor, but it will once I get my first aux core. So for right now, it's a little bit limited for its power usage. That's why there's so many basic generators. The large generators produce enough power to push it forward and do combat. And then I've got these expansion rooms here. Go through the wall. Or shield parts. So the way that it is designed is I took out the forward combat bridge and I put in a docking bay. Or not a docking. A boarding ramp and bay. So that I could have access in and out. Because where the bridge is, there's the upper combat bridge here. There's no other exit. There's no other access outside the ship, which is something that's kind of important. And then back here, I've got, again, the secondary bridge and crew area. Very similar to the other ship, with the constructors and the ammo controllers. Chem lab and full sick bay. And the back dock. Now, this is where you can park an SV, a small SV, or I guess you could put an HV up there if you can get an HV up there. And this also has a long-range scanner. The front of this ship, the ship is primarily carbon composite. But the front of it, its whole front half, from this line forward, is a mixture of steel, hardened steel, combat steel, and in a couple places, if I have more CPU, I would upgrade to Xeno. Buried inside, I also have dummy generators in front and dummy fuel tanks in front, because your enemy ship AI is going to target generators, fuel, and weapons if your shields are gone. Now, that could very well mean that the front half of my ship blows up, but as long as I can fly it out and get it to a repair pad, I'd be happy. It's an expensive build. Not super expensive. I mean, yes, but no. There's a lot of carbon substrate. And this version of it doesn't have any does not have any crew. So this ship is combat ready at Core 9. The way that the blueprint will be is it won't have the weapons on it, so you will have to put, you will have to decide what weapons to put on there. And it will have fewer thrusters than what's currently on this. So it's an upgrade. It's a project, but it will be intended for when you have your first few aux cores and you are ready to progress further in combat. All of these weapon installations can be upgraded to the heavy version, which means that they do more damage and they typically require different ammo. But they are, I mean, it's more powerful. I use this ship quite a bit with many aux cores and quantum extenders and multiplayer, and I was able to fight all the way up to killing some of the basic legacy ships. So I defeated all of the Xerax ships with the Manta Mark III. And then that brings me to the last ship, which has not been as combat tested, and it's not quite ready for the workshop as the other ships. But this is the Moray XT4. We're going to start out here on the back. This ship is intended for having high capacity CPU. This has multiple aux cores and multiple quantums inside it. It has an access ramp here for HVs. It has a big enough Big enough doors for some small SVs. The SVs that I use, the Astral Cube, fit in here. And I've got just kind of a basic construction bay here. Got some thrusters behind glass. I've got a fusion core in here, and I've got my warp core above the cargo bay here. This ship is primarily carbon and has a lot of combat steel. So what isn't carbon on the interior is combat steel on the exterior. So this ship is heavy. Its dry weight is 11.6 kilotons. It's only a size class 6, but that's a heavy ship. But it's got some good thrust on it. I've got some interior hallways here. Not quite fully finished on the interior. I've just got my shield parts here. That's the other side of the fusion reactor. Here I've got where my Pentaxid tank are, and the aux cores and quantum. Now I just did this as a for instance with full computer parts and 10 quantums and 10 aux cores, because that's how many I had gotten to when I built this ship for multiplayer. On the other side of the fusion reactor, I've got small shield parts. This is also an expansion room for the what is it? The radiothermic generators that you can get from very rare alien containers that lower your power output. This idling power output is 7.3 when flying at about 20, and you can have up to 8 RTGs at a ship. And what they do is they lower the consumption by 2 kilowatts permanently. They can't be moved though. So once you install it, it's a permanent installation. If you try to remove it, you just get a large generator back. So place it well. This has a full medical suite. I've not fully done the textures on this. Then that's the other side of the computer core. If that blows up, the ship is dead. I have 2 access ramps on the front. I've got my heavy weapons here. We're going to go over the weapons here shortly. I've got your basic life survival stuff. I've got the first aid chamber, an O2 station, a repair station, and an armor locker. And then I've got a very simple bridge. The core down right beneath the computer, or the captain's chair. And I have an expansion area for some interior prop plots, which is one thing that I had as feedback on the ships that I'd posted, is there was none of my other ships before had any grow plots. And I don't really like putting grow plots on capital vessels unless I specifically have a capital vessel that is a flying farm. Because when I'm done using the cap vessel, I like to just turn it off. I like to just power it off. And your crops won't survive if you just turn the power off and you're parked out in space. So, but then let's go over the armament in the front. This ship is still a ways way off for me using in the series, because I haven't even found drones yet, let alone getting ready to turn them into aux cores. But this is the end goal for my combat experience. I did use this on multiplayer, and I was able to take out any of the legacy ships. So I got them all. So this ship is not ready for the workshop. It does need some fine-tunement, and when I upload it to the workshop, it won't have any weapons on it. But what I've got is the giant railgun. And then I've got 6 lasers, 2 artillery cannons. I have some Vulcan turrets. And then I've got a whole bunch of colonist weapons. I've got missiles and I've got bolters. And then underneath here, not as much underneath as far as weapons. I've got positrons. Positrons I like because they are accurate and they do continuous shield damage. So, and then I've got my sentries, which are for predators, basically. And that is the Moray XT4 work in progress. But again, I used it for probably about 90 hours in multiplayer, making some tweaks here and there. It's got, this is all combat steel in the front, and it's all layered. And there's forward generators and stuff buried in the front to be dummies, so that they don't attack my other parts. The things I don't want them hitting is the shield parts. I don't want them going after the fusion reactor, the shield parts, or the warp core, which I understand. I put the warp drive under glass, but the glass has good hit points, so it's protected enough. But that ship is a beast, and I'm very proud of it. It took me a few days to really get it to a place where I liked it. But I've got, I mean, I have a shape of ship that I've grown to like. It's fair, to me, it seems very basic. It's not as fancy as a lot of the ships you see, but I also see that it's also not as noisy as a lot of ships you'll see. And by noisy, I mean full of conflicting textures and full of deco and just full. Now, Jay Randall showcased my carrier on one of his weekly videos, which I was very, very thankful for. Completely unprompted, he did that. It was great. It's a lot of people downloaded it and favorited it and have been using it. And then many of them have switched to the Mark II. It's a good carrier. The Manta 1 and 3 are great combat ships, and the Moray is a devastating ship to use. But it needs some fine-tuning. And so that, I'm going to wrap it up here. A little bit different for a video for me, coming back after playing some Elden Ring. I've had a good time playing it for the last few days. And I will be getting back into Empyrion over this weekend. And I think the focus of what I'm going to start doing is I am going to be spending a lot of non-recorded time out farming, getting asteroids and stuff like that, because I have to make money so that I can unlock the Polaris quests, so that I can get the Harvester mining turrets. I will probably be doing tutorials, like legit tutorials on how to do the main story quests in Reforged Eden. And then also I'm then likely going to transition to doing how-to videos for various POIs. Because realistically, after this point where I'm at right now, the next logical thing to do is be going after enemy POIs and going for loot and hunting down ships. And there's some questing to do, like unlocking going through the dead worlds and doing the dead quests. Object 82 is a good quest line, unlocking the core world so that I can get the K gate open and go see the progenitors. That's really far end game though. So I want to thank you again for all of your support, for watching my videos, liking and commenting. If anything over these last couple of weeks, anything has taught me about these videos is that there is a community of people who want to see Empyrion content. So I am happy to provide. I love this game. I love where it's going. I'm really happy with Reforged Eden. And I'm really happy with some of the future things that I've seen for what Reforged Eden is coming out with. And I can't wait for a lot of it. So I will close this up now. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.